In this video, we're going to be wiring together our mearm robot circuit board, and I have some components here in front of me that we're going to start with. I don't need that quite yet. But what I have in front of me are my 13 wires that have a pin on either end, and I have 13 wires that have a pin on one end and a plug on the other end. And those are the wires that we're going to be using to start with. I also have my breadboard here with me, and I have my 4 potentiometers that we're going to be plugging into the breadboard. So to start with, I'm going to take one of my potentiometers, and I'm going to notice that there are 3 pins on the bottom of the potentiometer. 1, 2, 3. And when we plug power and signal to our potentiometers, we're going to line them up so that one pin on the outer edge has power, one pin on the outer edge has ground, and the middle pin is going to be the pin for signal. So we just have to remember that when we flip it over, they're going to be in a row, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to say 1 is for the positive side, the plus, the power. The middle will be for the signal, which is going to connect to our Arduino board. And the last little pin on the end will be for the ground. And I just take that thing and this potentiometer and I flip it over and I plug it into the first 3 holes of my breadboard here. So I'm going to plug them into 1, 2, and 3. And it just seats right down there. Those little wires on the end slip right into the holes. They should line right up and go right into the breadboard in the right spot, like that. I'm going to do that with the other 3 potentiometers, and I'm going to try and spread them out so that I have enough space with my chunky fingers to actually reach each one of them individually. So I'm going to try 8, 9, and 10. 15, 16, and 17. And 22, 23, and 24. Now I probably could have done a little better job of spreading them out, but it doesn't matter too much. All that matters is that each individual pin goes into its own special row. You don't want to have 2 of the pins cross over each other and end up in the same hole or anything like that. Then next, I'm going to grab my bundle of wires that have a pin on both sides. And I'm going to peel one off. And it doesn't matter what color. Let's go back out again a little bit here. It doesn't matter what color. I'm just going to grab the first one and grab one wire in my hand. And I'm going to plug one end of my wire into the very first row of the breadboard. The other end of the wire is going to go into the very first red hole. So as you can see there, if I zoom right in, I have this wire in the first red hole and this wire in the very first hole of the place where the potentiometer is plugged in. Next, I'm going to grab another one of those male to male wires, the ones that have a pin on both ends. And I'm going to do the next positive wire, which is going to be in this second potentiometer. For that one, since I plugged it into holes 8, 9, and 10, I'm going to go into the first hole 8. Oops, being careful not to bend my other wires in the process. And the other end is going to go to one of the holes above it in the red bar area. Then I'm going to skip on over to potentiometer number 3. Bend the wires out of the way so you can see. Potentiometer number 3 is in spots 15, 16, and 17. So I'm going to take my wire into hole 15 and then into one of the red holes above it. Now for the last potentiometer, I'm going to grab one more of those male to male end ones. And this potentiometer is in 22, 23, and 24. So I'm going to plug into 22, which is the first hole on the potentiometer, and up to the red position. So your board should look like that at this point. Each one of these potentiometers should have a wire from the first pin all the way to the left up into the power rail, we call that, which is any hole along that red line. Now I'm going to switch to the ground side. So I'm going to keep taking wires off the bundle of wires that has a male and a male end like that. This time, in my first potentiometer, I'm going to skip a hole, and I'm going to go to hole number 3. So this potentiometer is in 1, 2, 3. I'm going to plug one end of my wire in 3. And this time I'm going to a hole above it along the blue line here. So it's going in this upper row of holes. And that'll be the ground side of the potentiometer. We're going to do that for each of the potentiometers down the line. So 3 more times we have to go to the third hole along the potentiometer, or 2 away from the wire that you put before. This one is 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to put it in 10. And then up to the blue line, so that it looks like that. One more time. This time it's 17 up to the blue line, and 24 up to the blue line, just like that. And then I bend those wires away a little bit so that you can see a little bit better. Just like that. Now I have to do the middle pin on each of these potentiometers. But to do that, I have to connect that middle pin to my microprocessor, my Arduino board. The Arduino board, if you hold it in this direction like this side is going to be our input side. So our potentiometers are going to connect to these pins on the input side. And we're going to start with the pin that's labeled A0, which is this one at the top here. and we're going to go to A1, A2, and A3 from the center of each one of these potentiometers. Now what I did is I took the piece that comes in your package with your microprocessor, and it looks like a long bar like this one. Only I cut my little long bar so that it matched up with each of the holes that it has to plug into. And another thing I did is that your long bar probably has a side that has short pins and a side that has long pins. But if you take it and press it down into the table, you can scooch that plastic bar down a little bit so that it's in the middle, just like mine is. And that way it'll be able to plug into the wires and the board. So I take the scooched down one and I push it into place there. So now my Arduino board has pins in these spots that were previously holes. And you can see it like that. So doing that, now I can take my wires that have a male end like this and a whole female end like this, and I can use them to connect the center of the potentiometer to each of these 4 pins here. So I'm going to peel one off. And taking my breadboard right in the same row as my positive and my negative, I'm going to plug right into the middle of it. Boop. Like that. So this is the brown wire I just connected. This is going to be my signal wire. All 3 of them can be right in a row like that. And the other end, this end, is going to go in the first spot, A0, on the Arduino board like that. Now I'm going to do that for each one of these potentiometers. So a male to female, plug in the middle, and now the next one goes at A1, just like that. One more in the middle, and on A2, just like that. Now the last one in the middle, and on A3. So that handles all of our potentiometers that we have to plug in and all of our input pins on our microprocessor.